Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my spoiler-free review of The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which is the fifth book inside the Sherlock Holmes series. It is preceded by two full-length novels and two short story collections, which are A Study in Scarlet, The Sign of the Four, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. I have spoiler-free review videos for all the four other books before this one in my channel already. I'll link the playlist down in the description so that you can check out those videos if you are interested. So without any further ado, let's get into the review right away. So in The Hound of the Baskervilles, we follow our main characters Sherlock as well as Watson together in Sherlock's apartment one day just chatting, and what happens is they find this cane that is left out by a visitor in Sherlock's office, and both of them have this conversation based on which Watson ends up deducing whose that cane might be. So the person who's actually left the cane at Sherlock's office is a doctor named James Mortimer from Devonshire, and he has come to London in order to just get the consultation of Sherlock Holmes alone, because there is this very huge unresolved mystery of a murder that has happened in Devonshire for the family called the Baskervilles. James Mortimer actually hands down this manuscript to Sherlock, which says that Hugo Baskerville, who's the owner of the Baskerville mansion many years ago, had imprisoned this young woman in the mansion, and because of this he has been hearing continuous sounds outside the mansion for the past few days. And one night what happens is Hugo Baskerville just gets out of the mansion and he ends up being dead the same night, and his features suggested he's been terrified of seeing something, and because of that only he has died. Many people also say that they heard the sound of a hound during the night when Hugo Baskerville was killed. Ever since that death occurred, every person who has inherited the mansion from Hugo Baskerville, that is the successors inside the Baskerville family, have died continuously inside the mansion itself because of the same reason. They were terrified by something when they went outside, and that fear actually ended up killing them. And multiple reports say that there is the appearance of the supernatural creature like a hound which keeps on occurring during the time of the death of each and every one of the Baskervilles. The latest Baskerville who's actually died is Charles Baskerville, and after him the successor inside the Baskerville family, Henry Baskerville, is given the mansion in Devonshire, and when he inherits the property, James Mortimer, who's been a very loyal friend for the Baskerville, especially Charles Baskerville for the past few years, does not want Henry to end up with the same fate. So he takes this case to Sherlock and asks his assistants in order to deal with it and solve the mystery as a whole. But what happens right now is that Sherlock is actually committed to a lot of cases in London itself, so he cannot go to Devonshire and take up the case from there. In order to carry out the case, he asks whether Watson would be able to do it for him, because there's no other person in the world he trusts more than he trusts Watson. And Watson ends up going to Devonshire along with James Mortimer, and he stays there as the eyes and ears of Sherlock and reports each and everything that happens in Devonshire to Sherlock. He also maintains a journal in which he writes down each and every day's happenings continuously without missing even a small insignificant event. Based upon the reports and journal entries that are given by Watson, whether they end up solving the case or not is actually the main plot of the book, and there are so many things which happen in between, and most of this book actually happens in Devonshire rather than in London. There is also a small chunk of the story which happens in the beginning of the book inside London, and it only instigates a lot more things that happen inside Devonshire. I can say that this is the first book inside the series which has a very heavy supernatural tone to it. Even though it has such kind of a tone, it does not move away from the pragmatic and practical approach that Arthur Conan Doyle has to deal with all the mysteries that he presents to us. It is followed here also, and the presence of the supernatural element does not dampen the mystery element in any way at all. It just adds on to the mystery and makes it even more atmospheric and a lot more immersive. The best part about this book for me was the inclusion of Watson a lot more compared to all the other books before this one. I can say that almost half of the mystery is solved by Watson here, and if it is not for him, I don't think the book would have been this much interesting. The character growth in him that is shown from the first book until here, and all the cases that he has seen along with Sherlock adding on to his knowledge and making him his own kind of detective, was really nice to see. The author shows us in the beginning of the story itself that he is the one that deduces the cane to be belonging to a doctor, especially James Mortimer, and not any other person of any other profession. So that was a really nice add-on in the beginning of the story, like a foreshadowing for all the stuff that is going to happen later on in Devonshire. Even though we focus on Watson a lot more in this one, we don't give up on Sherlock at all. Since he's the main character, his abilities and his knowledge and his intelligence is put to the most use, if you ask me, in this story compared to all the other previous stories that we've seen so far. It is really well thought out and written by the author, and I think that's one of the main reasons why this is one of the most popular stories inside the series as a whole. If you're planning to read this, I'd highly suggest you to read this during the winter season, because it has that kind of a vibe really well. And as I said before, it also has a supernatural element which just adds on to that kind of a vibe much more, and it will make it even more special. Since winter is around the corner, I hope that you'll be adding this to your TBR, because I know that it'll be a treat for you if you read it during the winter. I enjoyed it totally, and I obviously rated it 5 stars for sure. So yeah, that's it for my spoiler-free review of The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And if you did enjoy watching today's video and found it useful in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.